ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Too Long Didn't Read. From the Alan Turing Institute, the UK's National Institute for Data Science and AI.
Happy Christmas, everyone!
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Thank you, little girls.
Oh, gosh, I think I sound creepy.
That's honestly so cute.
That's my daughters there sounding way more angelic than usual.
Mince pie.
Welcome to Too Long Didn't Read, your weekly AI jam, and season's greetings to you. I got some bells, Smera. You've got a bell too.
I have
Just
a
the
tiny
one.
little... Yeah, that's the only bells I had.
We've almost come to the end of our first series, and we hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. We know that many of you may have mentally checked out by mid-December and don't need a fact-filled AI fest right now. So the next couple of episodes are a little shorter, a little less structured, and a little more fun. Woohoo! I'm Jonah, a content producer here at the Turing, and big up to Jessie, who hosted last week's show. Thanks, Jessie.
I think she did an absolutely fantastic job, and Jessie totally needs to come back.
Okay, this week we have been recruited by Santa Corp to come up with some AI solutions that could help the big man and his merry helpers be more efficient. Plus, we'll explore how our AI expert Smera became an AI expert. All that and not much more on Too Festive Didn't Read.
Is that a little mistletoe I see?
Okay, Smera, the festive time is here, and for many, that means Christmas. AI and Christmas go hand in hand thanks to the power of capitalism and consumerism. We will be targeted with ads based on our search history and internet data. We'll get frustrated at an AI chatbot when that last-minute Prezi hasn't arrived. And we might even be lulled to sleep by an AI-generated voice of long-past actor Jimmy Stewart reading us a bedtime story.
Aww.
I read that the BBC have collaborated with computer scientists at the University of Stanford and Illinois to create an AI tool that will make recipes from your Christmas leftovers. From turkey croquettes to potato casserole. It wasn't very revolutionary.
I know.
I did read what I think is a positive AI Christmas story. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong. An Australian telecommunications company have enabled all of its 14,500 payphones across Australia to call the North Pole for a magical conversation with Father Christmas.
Aww.
Children are encouraged to use Google Maps to find their closest payphone, and then they can dial #HoHoHo for a free chat to Santa. I know what you're thinking. Children, AI, creepy man on the other end of the line asking what they really want. Don't worry, Smera. I've got you covered here. It's an exercise in safety, as well as a great marketing campaign. Telstra, the telecommunications company, claimed that safety is a big part of the campaign. To quote them, teaching kids how to find and use a payphone in case of an emergency. This made integration with Google Maps particularly important, so children could associate their Santa chat with real-world payphone locations closest to them. Has that alleviated any fears you might have had?
I think that's really nice, especially the part where, like, it's giving them spatial awareness. And I think in the last few weeks, I've been speaking to a lot of folks, and everyone's just talking about, how often you tend to rely on Google Maps or any kind of navigation technique where you stop actually knowing where you are. And that's really, yeah.
So, right, I'll read you the AI and maybe you could summarize it because I don't fully understand. Working with implementation partner Full Stop AI and agency partner OMD, Telstra chose to use Google Cloud's Dialogflow CX as a voice interface for Santa, which has been further enhanced by generative AI and Palm 2, our next generation large language model that builds on Google's legacy of breakthrough research and machine learning and responsible AI. I'm quoting from Google here. Key to the process was also an AI tuning technique called prompt engineering, which provides the necessary context to the Palm 2 foundation model in order to specifically bring out the traits we normally associate with Santa, like his warmth, wisdom, and kindness. Next, we needed to ensure the experience felt personable and friendly. To do that, we used our text-to-speech custom voice model to capture Santa's speaking tone and timbre with generative AI, then recreating the various inflections and vocal expression required in different responses from surprise to curiosity and mirth. Can you summarize that in language that isn't full of words that I don't understand, please?
It uses natural language programming to respond to the queries that people have sent. And in that process, that's exactly what would make it more personal, I would say.
So to get him to have a hello, that kind of voice, they've used a text-to-speech thing and then customized the model of the voice.
Yeah. I think the one responding is generative AI. The rest of them would just be natural language.
Okay.
So
yeah.
machine learning, big umbrella, small umbrella of generative AI is also part of this larger machine learning adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just listened to the Santa voice. He sounds a little, he sounds a little weird.
Right, doesn't he?
He sounds quite creepy.
Yeah.
If he weren't saying lovely words. For listeners, here it is.
Hello there, it's Santa speaking.
Hi, Santa.
What present would you like for Christmas?
What present would you like for Christmas?
You know, we've kind of been painting poor old Santa in this very specific, you know, deep-throated. Yeah, exactly. Like, what if Santa's just sitting there like, damn, I have like a squeaky voice, but they just changed it. Like, we need to be more creative with it, you know? Did I make Santa a vulnerable group as well?
So, Smera, this week I had a letter from a pretty senior elf in Santa's entourage demanding we come up with some ideas to integrate AI into the Christmas workflow. I know the elves are under a lot of pressure this time of year, but to be honest, the letter was pretty demanding, terse, rude even. I'd say that elf needs to check himself before he wrecks himself. Right, anyway, because they're magical and mysterious entities, I think we should help. How can we integrate AI into the Christmas workflow?
First thought, elves are now a vulnerable group.
Are they?
We've managed to put AI with Amazon workers and now
Oh my
AI
gosh.
to replace, you know. So first we need to think about that, which is, of course, the most important thing that I speak about every time. Before we even
Absolutely,
design a
absolutely.
system, is it necessary? Should we even procure the system? But
Yeah, this isn't exactly where I'm
okay, I'm gonna take off my ethicist hat and be like, oh yes, yeah, you know, just I'll be not a
She does
Luddite.
actually wear an ethicist hat. It's weird.
We could put some form of automation into his sled to make it quicker, pull more weight and whatnot, you know.
Yes.
It does seem to have some really good avenues, you know.
And like his the route, he could have an optimized route.
Exactly.
He could use letter processing AI, right, to sort of sort the letters and put them into categories, and then like toy recommendations.
Yeah.
And sort of, he could borrow some of the e-commerce AI to help.
Yeah, natural language programming to go through the naughty and the nice list. I think that.
Oh yeah.
Why not? Unless.
I mean, let's put your ethics hat back on.
Yeah.
And how would he deal? How, you know, AI sorting the naughty and nice list sounds to me a little bit judgy.
Yeah, but in that, would he be able to, if we integrate like AI to like use all the data that he's built up and like that he has on these kids over time? Children's rights, excuse me, as Santa,
Yeah,
just because you
absolutely.
are magical,
Yeah.
you think you are going to surpass the EU AI Act? No. 2, how accurate is his data, right? Like, okay, there's a child. Would I really trust a child to be honest about, you know, their actions of being naughty or nice? And also, how much freedom do I want to give this child to ask for whatever toys that they want?
Some people say, Father Christmas is watching, you better be good, for like, you know, parents get this additional help for like the month of December to threaten their children.
Yeah.
Is he watching? And presumably AI could definitely help him with that, like hidden cameras that have collect only the data that he needs to judge them. I mean, it's getting scary.
It's giving surveillance capitalism for children as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the elves are the vulnerable group, the children the vulnerable group.
Yeah.
So I'm going to write back to Elfish Presley, who's the elf that wrote to me, and tell them that it will be very much so a partnership between elves and AI, and we are going to start a little subcommittee just to look into some of the children's rights violations that are clearly happening. It's also worth mentioning to any listeners who have children, there's a very cool thing that I like to show my girls every year, which is the International Space Station turn on the app. You can hold your phone up to the sky and see where the ISS is. And during the festive period, they make the little dot Santa on a sleigh. So you can And so you hold your camera up, at night and you can see Santa. But then if you take your phone away, you can see the little star. Well, not star, but you can see the ISS light moving across the sky.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
And obviously then you can make it more educational and less fun and tell them about the ISS.
That chimney's particularly narrow. Oh dear. Oh.
Smera, this is the 10th episode. We're pre-recording it, but this is the 10th episode of the Mighty Podcast. It's a decade old in weeks. Our listeners have heard you explain nuclear cyber attacks, the history of microchips, labour exploitation, and once or twice ChatGPT, but they haven't heard enough about you. So I thought we would take a little bit of time to talk Smera. And beginning with your title, which we all now know, DJ Jeff is the acronym, Digital Justice, Global Ethical Futures? Wrong already.
Wrong.
Data Justice.
Yes.
Data Justice, Global Ethical Futures. What is that? What is your job? You're a research assistant. Tell us about your job title. Tell us about who you work with at the Alan Turing Institute, as in who the global ethical blah, blah, blah is. And tell us any research that you're doing that you're interested in.
So I've been a research assistant in, as you said, data justice and global ethical futures for 2 years now. My contract's been extended for another year. So yay, one more year of these podcasts. But at my other role, the less exciting bit of it is the data justice and global ethical part of it, where we work with 12 partner organizations across the world in this one advancing data justice in research and practice project. So they prepared a series of reports, and we prepared a series of reports, as well as a documentary series and some graphics and animation, so we can share in as simplistic a way as possible what data justice means, which in essence, as I've explained in previous episodes, is about, the protection of your data against harms, be it from a government, from a corporate entity, or from other individuals itself. And, I've explained this in terms of the labor exploitation, but what data justice, especially what the Turing is trying to look at, is shifting the conversation away from the transatlantic to areas within what is usually termed the global south, but also seeing the variation between these countries, not just looking at rural areas, looking at national areas and so forth.
So what kind of partners do you work with? What are one or two of the 12 partners? What do you know them?
Digital Rights Foundation in Pakistan, Digital Empowerment Foundation in India, Digital Natives Academy.
Oh, so similar sort of institutes that are doing similar work, and you're just sort of combining research and messaging and whatnot.
Yeah, one of the interesting ones is Digital Natives Academy in Aotearoa in New Zealand. And their work, a lot of their work is looking at trying to get basic tech and digital infrastructures to the Maori population there. And it started off with the radio networks that they began as a way of bringing community from the grounds and the areas in which they were, and really spreading that message across using the radio waves. And since then, it's increased. Now they've looked into video games and, training a new generation of people. So it's really interesting to see what different countries are doing, using their own cultural values to ensure, we use data well, and we make the full use of the digital domain without harming the people who are also in it.
Yeah. So does your work entail, is it mostly about awareness or is there sort of policy informing and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I work within the ethics team. The ethics team works within the public policy program of the Turing.
Yes.
So a lot of our work does help in either consultation or to help inform policy within the United Kingdom and hopefully globally as well.
Yeah. So listeners will no doubt have figured that you're into ethics.
Isn't that obvious?
Yeah. I've probably referred to you sometimes as the science expert. Are you a scientist? What's your sort of what do you call yourself rather than your full DJ Jeff title?
I would not call myself a scientist. I would barely call myself an ethicist.
Ethicist. Wow.
Yeah. I think
Shouldn't we all be ethicists?
I think we should all behave ethically. I think ethicists are probably the philosophers out there with the tenured professorships in big universities. That's at least that's how I see it. My background's actually in humanities, so I did history, economics, political science, and then I did my master's in international security and strategy, which is where some of my knowledge on cybersecurity came from. That's also where I learned about space security. And it was a great master's. I got to learn about all of these different aspects, but AI was the one that really, got to me. And
Was it?
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't really know much about it. And then as I started figuring out the logical side behind it and the math that went into it, and then, of course, the big data problem, that's when I realized it could really harm communities. So I wanted my research to relate to what's happening in Kashmir, occupied Kashmir, and the divided Kashmir region within India, Pakistan, and China.
Yeah.
So my thesis essentially tried to look at how medical technologies, medical AI-based technologies, if deployed in areas like this and don't contain the data of the people in those regions, just thinking about how that data, if trained on people like me, if used over there, would not pick up on their signs of trauma and not pick up on how best to treat them. So I realized that there was that big inequity. And yeah, I ended up writing it on ethics, and a few months later found the posting at the Turing Institute. I applied about 8 hours before closing, so I was not on top of it at all.
Is it here forever? It's so hyped and so buzzwordy. As soon as something is in the news every day, you know that it's possibly in its final death throes. Do you have an opinion on the future of AI? Is it going to morph into something new?
It will 100%. Every piece of technology we have ever had has morphed into something new. Our computers got smaller and sleeker. Our TVs got smaller and sleeker. Our phones got more and more powerful. And it's just going to get more. And yeah. I do think it's going to increase. And I know I always come off as someone who's like, no, we should be mindful. This is bad. I do think tech can help us. It's always about how it's being deployed. If all those considerations are made, it can be used as a force for good. So it needs this whole of society change. Assuming all of that takes place, we could have good AI in the future, deployed well. Maybe we do finally get a 3-day work week, a 4-day work week, and, AI does most of it for us. I know I'm very negative, but it can be better in the future. And I am hopeful.
Yeah.
Well, it took 10 episodes, but we've got Smera to admit she is hopeful about AI. That's a Christmas miracle if e'er I heard one. That was interesting hearing about Smera's AI journey, wasn't it? If you're interested in learning more about the researchers at the Turing, check out our Coffee Pod podcast, which does just that. Well, thanks for listening, listeners. Join us next week for our final episode of the season, when I fire some of your questions at Smera. Let's make her sweat. Like, share, subscribe, and email us at podcast@turing.ac.uk. Find us on Instagram at @TheTuringInst and Twitter at TuringInst.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Thanks, DJ Jeff. That's what I always wanted.